Okay, how many people have been in Washington for a long time? How many people have ever been on this street before? Not me, I can tell you. I thought I had been in every nook and cranny that there is in the District of Columbia. So I'm just going to fess up. Anyway, good morning, everyone. Good morning. I want to thank all of you for being here today on the future site of Metro Village, which will actually deliver 120 affordable units. As you're aware, the supply of affordable housing here in the District of Columbia, as it is in, frankly, many, many cities, is in a critical state at this point. I won't even say reaching a critical state, but really has already reached it. We have some 1,000 to 1,100, 1,200 residents who are moving into the city each month. And with that, the demand for housing continues to rise unabated. Obviously, we can't add any real estate, so it's a question then of how we add more housing that makes opportunities available for people who are moving in, but even more so for people who already are in the city and want to remain in the District of Columbia. We have 15 district government agencies, as well as a number of public-private partnerships actively working to ensure the District of Columbia delivers on the commitment that I made back in February and then in the budget, and that was to try to keep the District of Columbia committed to being a place where, irrespective of income, people will be able to continue to live in this great city. I'm joined here by a number of people you will hear from. First of all, our Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development, Victor Hoskins. Our Director for Housing and Community Development, Michael Kelly. Brought his own fan club, huh? Not bad, Michael. Oh, great. And then the co-chair of the our Comprehensive Housing Strategy Task Force, Debbie Radner-Stalsberg. Debbie, thank you. I also want to recognize our Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services, who is here today. That is Bibi Otero. Who brought her folks with her, too, obviously. Our Director of the Department of Human Services, David Burns, who's done a great job working with our CANF program in particular. Senior Director of the Department of Behavioral Health, Barbara Bazron. And the Interim Senior Deputy Director for the Health Department, specifically responsible for HOSTA, and that would be Michael Carfin. Michael, thank you very much. Our Health and Human Services cluster of agencies has been working in strong partnership with our housing production agencies during this process, and have also committed significant resources to a number of projects that will be a part of this overall effort. We can't even call this a supernova. We have to call this a super, right? In the State of the Address, I promised to invest $100 million into creating and preserving affordable housing across the city, and that is precisely what we have done, and that's for the fiscal year beginning October 1st. We've worked diligently since then to map out and leverage all available resources in order to develop a comprehensive strategy consistent with the strategy that was developed by the Affordable Housing Task Force that worked for weeks, months to be able to put together what I think is a really excellent document. So today, I'm here to announce that in addition to the original $100 million that we committed, we are committing additional funding that will preserve affordable housing here in the District of Columbia. In February of 2012, I appointed 12 housing professionals and service providers and government leaders to the Comprehensive Housing Strategy Task Force with the mission of helping city leaders ensure the creation and preservation of affordable housing. In March of 2013, just before we submitted the budget, the task force provided our administration with a framework for addressing the complex challenges associated with providing housing for our city's diverse population. That all led to my decision to commit to producing or preserving 10,000 affordable housing units by the year 2020, and what we now are terming as the 10 by 20 goal, 10,000 by 2020. And so today, I'm proud to announce that we have amassed, in addition to the $100 million, an additional $81 million in commitments. So we will have $181 million being committed to affordable housing in the District of Columbia. That will actually fund 47 projects, and I think we have some of the folks, a number of the folks here today who represent the organizations that will be working with us to be able to make that happen. What that will translate into is 3,200 affordable units, and actually leverage, Ormenta, I know this will be music to your ears, given the meeting that we had a few months ago. Will leverage $589 million in total investments here in the city. For every dollar that the District of Columbia is investing, that will leverage more than $2 in private investment. We're also investing over $6 million in community-based organizations to provide housing support services. So today, we are taking a major step in ensuring that all district residents, regardless of income level, will have a home in the District of Columbia. I now want to bring up Deputy Mayor Hoskins, who will talk in a little bit further detail about how we're actually going to execute this. But I suspect, Victor, once people heard $181 million, they are ready to go home and get to work. And when you leave, we'll be happy to see you back here again on Spring Place at some point in the future.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah. I want to begin by thanking the mayor for not just his tremendous vision, but for his commitment. He made a promise and he kept that promise. And that's one of the most difficult things to do these days. And I really do appreciate the way he's not only stepped up to the promise, but stepped up with the funding. Thank you, sir. I also want to thank our host today, the Tacoma Spring Limited Partnership, that actually provided this site for this opportunity. I know everyone had a difficult time coming here. I'm sure there are about 100 people still roaming the streets somewhere, but I think it is appropriate that that we show that we will do all we can, even on the most difficult sites, to provide affordable housing. Under the mayor's leadership, we now have a clear vision on how we're moving forward in economic development, also in affordable housing, to make sure that our city stays economically diverse. I want to thank Bruce Levine and his team for really, again, for providing this opportunity. They came to us at the end of a long process that they'd been through, and they expressed the fact that they had difficulty, and fortunately we had this funding available. Since the start of the mayor's administration, we've delivered 2,521 affordable units. We also have right now 2,770 units financed or under construction. And we will have 3,633 units in the pipeline and estimated to deliver by 2016. The forecast, and we also forecast another 3,130 between fiscal 2017 and 2020. These numbers result in us exceeding our 10,000 units by about 200 plus units. Our New Communities Initiative serves as a cornerstone of producing and preserving affordable housing. Some of the projects that have delivered or under construction include Sheridan Station Phases 1 and 3, Northwest 1, Severna Phases 1 and 2. We've also delivered senior housing at O Street and affordable units at Progression Place and at 3232 Georgia Avenue. We're not only investing in bricks and mortar, We're also taking the lead on building the infrastructure necessary to ensure we reach our goal. In tandem with the Deputy Mayor Otero's office, we have launched the Affordable Housing Database project, which is probably more difficult than actually building housing. It was really the #1 recommendation out of the Brookings Institute's study that they had done back in 2007. And to show you how difficult it is, no one really decided to tackle it until the mayor got here. And he gave that assignment to Bibi and I. And it looks like we're moving ahead with it. And actually, we're going to have a kickoff later on this afternoon. This will provide a centralized location for all data related to the affordable housing, the number of available units, who is in those units, the status of the units, and the affordability levels. This will give a comprehensive picture of affordable housing in the district, and also a transparency that we haven't had before. We want the community to be able to look at this data and help them make decisions. We awarded a contract yesterday to the Urban Institute for the Affordable Housing Needs Assessment and for a policy review. Their work will guide DHCD's next NOFA, their Notice of Funding Availability, as well as recommendations on affordable housing regulations. Both of these came out of the recommendations from the Comprehensive Housing Strategy Task Force. And we are taking a holistic approach to producing housing and preserving affordable housing. I cannot stop before I thank all the agencies that we work with, like DDOT and DGS, the DC Housing Finance Agency, DC Housing Authority, all of these agencies that have worked together, DHS, to make sure that we do meet the needs of the city. As the mayor stated, this investment is unprecedented and is representative of our commitment to creating an economically diverse city. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victor. While we're at it, I want to thank Victor also and the DMPED team and others for what's happening at St. Elizabeth's Hospital. For those of you who didn't hear it, on Friday, we got a commitment from Microsoft. Microsoft is going to develop the first ever for them innovation center in the U.S. outside of Redmond, Washington. And it's going to be developed on the grounds of St. Elizabeth's Hospital. They will be joining Citylum, which is a French lighting firm, and SmartBIM, which does building design, I should put it that way. And we've got some, I don't know how many of you got out there on Saturday, but it was a lot of fun activities over there on Saturday, and there's a lot more coming as well. Now with Gateway having been finished, the building having been finished, if you haven't seen that, you need to go and see it. It is almost beyond description as a building. So go see it and you'll understand what I mean. But anyway, I want to thank our Deputy Mayor, and I want to thank the DMPED staff for having done such a great job and moving us to where we are with the long-held promise. In any event, we want to turn to our popular guy here at this stage. And he is a popular guy. I've known Michael for a very long time and have nothing but respect and admiration for the work that he does. And he's going to have the enviable task of announcing the recipients of the 2014 NOFA, which actually are a subset of the projects that we're announcing today. So, Michael, please join me in welcoming Michael Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor.
Look at the impact you have, Michael. Great. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
What a great day for our great city. Before I report out on the DHCD's 2013 Notice of Fund Availability awardees, I want to take a moment to recognize and to applaud our mayor, Vincent C. for leading this unprecedented moment in the city's history. $187 million we're announcing today, allotted for affordable housing and community development, the highest one-time contribution ever for this city. Mayor Gray, we salute you.
My man.
You know, it's an honor to stand before you today with so many of our partners, we who toil in the vineyard for this most noble task. And I'm not kidding about that. You know what I'm talking about. We're building and we're preserving affordable housing as the basis for a just, economically inclusive, diverse, and vibrant city.
Talk, Michael.
We are pleased at this time that we have 47 projects in the city's housing production pipeline that are projected to be funded between this fiscal year and next. The projects are expected to deliver over 3,200 units of affordable housing. The awardees today came to us in response to a springtime notice of funding availability. This NOFA, as we call it, is a very unique solicitation. This was the first time, Deputy Mayor Otero, that the Memorandum of Understanding between the Department of Housing and Community Development, the Department of Behavioral Health, the Department of Human Services, the D.C. Housing Finance Agency, and the D.C. Housing Authority, under the guidance of Deputy Mayors Hoskins and Otero, came together in a committed and coordinated manner to develop capital, operating, and support services, the three stools on the important legs we're talking about here, in a consolidated way to create and to preserve housing for low-income and moderate-income families, as well as permanent supportive housing for our special needs populations. We received... That's what we're talking about. We received 34 proposals requesting more than $100 million in total assistance from the low-income housing tax credits, from the Home Investment Partnership Program, from the Community Development Grant Program, from the Housing Production Trust Funds, and funding from the Department of Behavioral Health and from the Housing for Persons with AIDS funds. From this, 22 proposals met threshold criteria and were put through the agency's vetting and underwriting process that included for the first time our agency partners and representation from the Interagency Council on Homelessness, the Corporation for Supportive Housing, and the Local Initiative Support Corporation. And all this was done, this entire process is under the review through accountability and transparency from the Mayor's Housing Production Trust Fund Advisory Board. To give it up for all those that touched this incredible moment today. From the 22, we have 18 proposals that we are recognizing today. These projects are going to yield 981 units of affordable housing units, and we're pleased to say that 430 of these will provide housing to the district's special needs populations. That's 41% of the total affordable housing that's going to come out from this NOFA. In your packets and on the easels, you will see the list of the awardees. Please, this time, for all those that are here today, please stand and be recognized. Congratulations on being awarded as developers who will help move this city toward Mayor Gray's goal of preserving and creating 10,000 units of affordable housing by 2020. You have been selected as these recipients because you understand the vision of the mayor and the city. You understand the needs of our residents and the importance that housing has for making this a truly just city. Thank you. In order to build cohesive communities, in addition to affordable housing, you need healthy neighborhoods. These are healthy neighborhoods with community and cultural centers, with plentiful businesses, and with a collaborative spirit. It is the mission of our mayor and the deputy mayors and the District of Columbia's Department of Housing and Community Development to revitalize underserved communities throughout our great town. And to meet this charge, we leverage the support of our community-based organizations, most commonly called CBOs, who provide facade improvement and small business assistance to area businesses and housing counseling to city residents. We are pleased to say that we approved 20 grants to a total of 18 CBOs yielding $6.3 million, with individual grants ranging from $40,000 to $1.3 million. 2 of these grants were made to facilitate facade improvements, 10 grants for housing counseling, and 8 grants to provide small business technical assistance. This year's housing counseling emphasis will be on ongoing post-counseling for all of our transactions to sustain investments, to reduce foreclosure and default, and continual education on home preservation and ownership. As we move forward, our facade improvement and small business assistance will be developing a more strategic approach to ensure that all groups, such as the Latino business communities, the international immigrant business community, the Asian and Pacific Islander business community, and all businesses along the Great Streets Initiative will have access to information, support, and power. In your packets, and on the easels, you will see the list of the 18 CBOs who have been awarded. I would like them now to stand and be recognized. Congratulations for being selected to serve as CBO. Your understanding of the needs of the neighborhoods and your expertise in helping district residents and business owners through their challenges is why we recognize you today. Again, I'd like to thank you, Mayor Gray. I'd like to thank deputy mayors. I'd like to thank our agency partners. I'd like to thank our community partners. This is a really remarkable day, everybody.
My man. We even brought the trains out today, y'all. Who's going to be moving in, here? Yeah. That's the last. The trains will be moving out of this neighborhood. That was the last train. You all are at a historic moment. There will be a sound wall here. Now you know why you haven't been on Spring Place before, right? I want to bring up Debbie. Before I bring up Debbie Ratner-Salzberg, I want to recognize that we've been joined by the Executive Director of the D.C. Housing Authority, who I was with yesterday at the Gibson Plaza, which the renovation of which has been completed now. So, Adrian, I want to thank you for being here with us today also. Adrian Codman. Now I want to bring up Debbie Ratner-Salzberg, who worked tirelessly as the co-chair of our Comprehensive Housing Strategy Task Force. To say the least, she has a busy schedule running for a city. And I appreciate the fact, again, that you took the time out to do that and participate in what is an incredibly important task for us here in the city. So, Debbie, thanks for joining us today, and we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you and good morning. I do have one request, which is next time, if there is a next time, I'd like to go before Michael Kelly. Okay.
We'll just make sure the trains are running when he speaks.
Perfect. That would work as well. So I too want to begin by thanking the mayor. Mayor Gray, on behalf of the entire Comprehensive Housing Strategy Task Force, a number of whose members are here today, I want to thank you for accepting our 10 by 20 challenge. Again, 10,000 units by the year 2020, and for embracing many of the recommendations of the Bridges to Opportunities report, which many of you have received. It was a true honor to co-host the Housing Task Force, and I appreciate your faith in me for leading the distinguished, as you pointed out, very hardworking group of both public sector, private sector, nonprofit, philanthropic. We crossed all borders and streamlines in all streams of the community. From time to time, I even miss our monthly meetings. I am very pleased that the Blue Ribbon Report is being taken seriously and that you, Mr. Mayor, are committed to implementing the report and the recommendations and to improving, as we heard today, the range of affordable housing options and choices for district residents. When we all got together, a couple members of our task force had been on a task force, I think the 2005 task force, and their fear was that what was going to happen was we would come up with a great report, which I think we did, with lots of recommendations, and none of them would be implemented. The report would sit there. As you heard, the report was delivered in March of this year, and you have heard the progress that has been made since March of this year. I can't thank you enough. All of the time and effort that everyone put in and all of the commitments of the people in this room were rewarded, and you are really doing what you promised us you would. Thank you. We were told it was going to be a $100 million commitment, and it was just the beginning. Little did I know how quickly it would just be the beginning, because as you heard today, it's over $187 million. So that also is a terrific, terrific goal and start, and it will have a great impact on the city's ability to meet the 10,000 units by 2020. We all know it takes public-private partnerships, I represent the private side, or P3s, the new buzzword, to create and preserve affordable housing. I want you to know that as a private sector developer and the other private sector developers on the committee, we are here to further your affordable housing goals, and I'm confident that others in the room and in the community feel the same. Together, we are going to be able to surpass your 10 by 20, our 10 by 20 goal with your help. Again, thank you for your commitment to affordable housing. Under your leadership, the district will become an even more vibrant urban community with housing options and opportunities for all. Thank you.
As you can see, we've tried to put some serious skin in the game. I don't like to be a part of anything either, Debbie, where people wind up spending hours and hours putting together a very thoughtful product, and then it collects dust, and we've seen too many instances of that. And this is one of those where there's too much at stake to not have been committed to what was produced. And it was an excellent product, and I'm proud that we are able to be in the position to be able to make these kinds of investments, and we'll continue to do this moving forward. So thank you again. And to the folks, there are lots of folks in this room who served on the task force also. In fact, if you served on the task force, would you raise your hand? Thank you. You know, in addition to the projects that Michael just mentioned, we're also constantly looking for opportunities, for new opportunities to create more affordable housing, and obviously, hopefully, we will leave no stone unturned and no street undiscovered as a possibility. There are several projects that stand out. One is the site, which many of you are probably familiar with, 1125 Spring Road, which was formerly the Hebrew home for the aged. This property has been vacant for a number of years and presented a perfect opportunity to leverage an underutilized District of Columbia resource. Seeing this opportunity, our two deputy mayors, Hoskins and Otero, came together, as they do in many instances, and formed a partnership with Adrian Todman at the D.C. Housing Authority to renovate the existing property. And I'm happy to announce today that we expect to close on this project by the end of this year, by the end of the year, which will actually deliver 70 affordable and workforce units, a term that we haven't used a lot recently, but we have people who work and still can't afford to live in the District of Columbia, and we're trying to make those opportunities available as well. I went one Sunday back in the summer to a place called Parkway Overlook. I am one A&C commissioner. We're the only elected officials there. It is in Ward 8. It's a series of buildings. It has, I don't know, 260, 270 units in those buildings, and they're all offline at this stage. And we went down and visited with them. It was quite a rally at one of the churches over there. And we went down there. I went down there to see the property, which was fenced off with a chain link fence. But I just want you all to know that we are going to fulfill a promise. We are reclaiming Parkway Overlook, and there will be 183 units that will be developed at Parkway Overlook. You know, with the work that's being done with Henson Ridge, which is nearby, we're doing work now on Johnson School. With the work that's being done in that area, it's going to be a nice complement, I think, to the development, community development that's taking place in that area of Ward 8, and will be a wonderful place for families, especially, to be able to go back and live in a nicely renovated place. We're also investing in the 11th Street Assisted Living Facility, which will serve our seniors. And we obviously are doing as much as we can to try to make sure our seniors have an opportunity to continue to live in the city. In any event, those are just a few of the projects. You heard projects mentioned by virtually every speaker in one way or the other today. We think that this is an exciting move forward, and certainly hardly the conclusion, but really the next step in a long-term process to make sure people have the opportunity to continue to live in our great city. We now, you've heard me say this, we now have a population that's larger than the entire state of Vermont, larger than the entire state of Wyoming. We are now gaining on North Dakota, and we want people to be able to stay in this city and feel like they can stay here without being, destitute in the process. And that's really what this is about today. So with that having been said, we'll take any questions on the housing issue from the media. Bruce?
A question over here. That word, affordable.
Yeah.
It's been kicked around by everybody. I think a lot of people have forgotten what it means. What does affordable housing mean? Who's going to live in these new units?
Well, it's based on the area median income, which I think a lot of us have a problem with it because the area median income includes the surrounding counties where we know that the median income is much higher than it is in the District of Columbia. But the area median income now is around $102,000, $103,000. So the affordability question is then expressed in terms of a percentage of the area median income. If it were 100% of the area median income, that means your income could not exceed $102,000, $103,000, which for a lot of people is a lot of money. Household income, I should say. And what we're trying to do, and essentially with these investments, we're buying down the cost of housing for people. And we're trying to get down to the 30, 40, 50% range, which is where a lot of people in the District of Columbia are. If it were 30% of the area median income, that means the household income could not exceed $30,000. If it were 50%, it would be $50,000, roughly speaking. Is that the best way to measure affordability? Certainly not for us. But those are requirements that are imposed upon us by the federal government. HUD actually is the administrator of that particular concept. If you looked at area median income in terms of just the District of Columbia, it probably, Bruce, would be about around 50% of that number. Instead of being 102 or 104,000, more likely to be somewhere between $50,000 and $60,000, which would have a major impact on the question of affordability.
Very great. Can you give us any idea, quantify the demand for affordable housing in the district? Is there a wait list, or can you put any kind of numbers on how many people out there are looking for?
I think it's thousands. If you look at the wait list at the Housing Authority, for example, how many? 71,000. So, and that number has been growing. There probably you probably have lists and numbers as well, Michael. And I know our other agencies do. We have people with special needs. We got the homeless population. We have people who are living with AIDS who have needs, people with mental health challenges, people with intellectual disabilities who have challenges, obviously, in terms of living. So it's a very, very substantial number of people. And I don't want to suggest at all that even if we meet the 10 by 20 goal, that we will have then met the need for affordable housing in the city, because we won't. What hopefully will happen is that the momentum will increase. And the reason why I singled out Araminta earlier, because she took the leadership in helping to bring together a group of folks around the need to use the government's dollars to leverage investments in the city. We've been able to do some of that, but we need to do a lot more. We could take that $100 million and multiply it by 10 and still not have met the full need in the city. But it is a start. It's a very substantial start, and hopefully we'll gain the attention of people in the city around the needs that exist.
Being the height restriction, would that have helped you?
The height restriction? Yeah. It could. And I want to, since you raised that, Bruce, I want to make it clear, too, what was being addressed yesterday wasn't changing the height. It was really, I call it a home rule issue, and that is giving the authority to the officials, the elected officials of the District of Columbia, to be able to make those decisions about what the heights would be, where if there were any changes, where they would happen. So it was a disappointing outcome. I didn't expect the outcome that occurred yesterday, but we'll keep working with this, because I think, people don't like change, period. People don't like change, and this was not just resisting change; it was resisting the opportunity to make change that people still would have had a way, an opportunity to weigh in on. Ms. Brazil.
One person who's not here is Harry Sewell, who headed the D.C. Department of Housing Finance Agency, and as you are aware, it was revealed this week that he has been removed from his position because of the misuse of his government-issued credit card. How important and what impact will the situation over there impact upon your initiative and these projects going forward? And where was the oversight of internal oversight of the finances over there?
Well, first of all, that clearly is a personnel issue, and I won't get into that. There is a board of directors that has oversight. The Housing Finance Agency does not report directly to me, although we obviously work with the Housing Finance Agency because of their role in trying to create especially affordable housing here in the city. I think it will not have an impact. I think we will continue to go forward. The Housing Finance Agency is an important part of our efforts, especially in terms of the sale and production of bonds that support housing, the tax credits that may be associated with it, and we will continue on. We have a leader from the Housing Finance Agency who is with us here today, Maria Day Marshall, who I had the opportunity to work with when I was the director of the Department of Human Services 432 years ago. She was the treasurer of the District of Columbia at the time, and is quite a good professional, to say the least.
Could I ask a follow-up? Could Mr. Hoskins indicate what affordable housing program comes through the Housing Finance Agency as opposed to DHCD?
I'm sorry, what was the question again, Ms. Brazil?
What component of the Affordable Housing Initiative come through the Housing Finance Agency as opposed to DHCD?
Yeah, they primarily issue the what is called 4% tax credits, which relate to the bond financing on deals. That's their primary focus. But in addition to that, they also have helped with home ownership. They've done a very aggressive home ownership initiative, and also a foreclosure prevention program. So those are the primary areas.
Other questions on the housing issue? All right. Thank you all very much. Those who were here for the housing event, you are welcome. You are welcome to leave Spring Place now. Hopefully to return one day when these units are finished, and then we'll take a minute for those who want to leave before we take any further questions. All right. Anything else, guys? Will.
Mr. Mayor, the U.S. Attorney's Office has requested the Attorney General's documents related to a $7.5 million payment.
Well, you got to read it. You probably had that in your mind for the last 2 weeks, right?
I got to get it ready. To Jeff Thompson's company, you said that you didn't know anything untoward was going on in your 2010 campaign, and that you don't want it to be an issue if you decide to run for re-election again. If that's the case, why not tell Irv Nathan to release the documents?
Why not do what?
Why not tell Attorney General Nathan to release the documents?
I think you should talk to Irv Nathan about this. The issue is attorney-client privilege. Did you read Irv Nathan's press release?
I did.
Well, then, didn't that answer a lot of your questions?
Well, can't you intercede and tell him you've got nothing to hide and send it over?
Read his press release. There's an attorney-client privilege issue that's involved that is a technical legal issue. We've said it. He said it. He said it. And he said he proposed a way to be able to answer the question. So hopefully the U.S. Attorney's Office will accept it, and that'll be the end of it.
So you can't just waive that. I mean, it's a privilege.
I've answered it, Will. Okay. Yes.
I believe it's my turn this week to ask about your plans for re-election. Can you give us any update?
You can avoid that if you like.
I drew the short straw today.
Yeah, I see. Well, there'll be no announcement today.
Are you any closer to a decision?
I guess I'd have to be. Ms. Brazil.
This week, a birthday party is being held for you. Can you give us some details as regards sponsoring and how it's being paid?
It'll be paid for out of the contributions by people, and it'll be the same event that we've had the last couple of years, and that is whatever the net is will go to the Constituent Services Fund.
Mr. Mayor, any plans to make an announcement at that particular opportunity?
Did you all conspire, on these questions? I have no plan to do that right now. But plans change.
Charity brought up the Hyde Act issues yesterday, and you described this as a home rule issue. I just want to get your reaction to what Council Chairman Mendelson said, who sits on the commission. He said yesterday that that the Hyde Act is proper, that the federal government and Congress has a proper role in setting those height limits in the city, and he voted against recommending that we loosen the height limits even outside the 1.5 for the city. What's your reaction to the chairman having that point of view?
I think I'm not going to get into a debate with the chairman without him being here. The chairman and I have had brief conversations about the Hyde Act, and we'll probably have more. I do think it is a home rule issue, and I think those are decisions that need to be made by the people of the District of Columbia. There are folks who argue about what, inside the law enforcement city, outside the law enforcement city. Right here on Spring Place, don't you think that we ought to have the ability to make some decisions about what goes on Spring Place? If the people of the city choose not to do that, that's fine. But it ought to be something that the city chooses to make decisions about. Not to be persnickety, but I don't think you'll find anybody in the Congress who has a clue where Spring Place is.
Greg, just to follow up on that, you said it's a home rule issue that the people should have the ability to decide, but having watched those NCPC hearings, having watched city council hearings on this matter, the public reaction against this has been overwhelmingly against changing it. People have lined up, a dozen deep to say this is a bad idea, outweighing the sentiment in favor pretty extraordinarily. I mean, at the end of the day, isn't that the people, the sentiment of the people, shouldn't that matter on this question?
Well, I think the people's sentiments would still be weighed, Mike, because if there's a proposal to change some particular area of the city or some particular project or raise the height limits in a particular area, there are components of the city that would make that decision. And I think a lot of people are not recognizing that is the distinction that's made here, that this doesn't change any particular height, any particular neighborhood, downtown, midtown, in the outskirts of town, whatever the case may be. It just simply gives the authority to the city. And, the chairman and I will probably have further conversations about it. I know he's a big home rule advocate because he supported budget autonomy for the District of Columbia.
Mayor, if I can follow that up, though. By upping the height, though, would that address the housing situation that you've been talking about in this press conference?
It might. Absolutely. It depends on what you do with the additional capacity that you have, Bruce. If we let me look at it two ways. If we add capacity with more height, we would obviously have to be mindful of the need to make some of that capacity would have to translate into affordable housing. But let's say that nothing is done and we keep adding population. I think it's going to drive people out of town. I think because it's a fundamental economic law of supply and demand, and that is we're not able to substantially increase in large numbers the supply of housing based on the number of people who now want to live in the city. That clearly is going to bid up the prices of housing and further squeeze people who may have limited means at this stage. So I do think from that perspective, it is a way of addressing the goal that we have of trying to keep as many people in the city who want to be in the city as possible, who otherwise would be foreclosed.
Don't want to put words in your mouth. So in addition to being a home rule issue, you think it makes sense to up the height of these buildings?
I think it makes sense to give us the authority to be able to make that decision, Bruce. And I think we are closer to those, issues than people who are at a federal level. We understand the impacts and the pressures on our city. And I trust our people to make prudent decisions about how best to exercise the authority that we would be accorded in that sense.
You're great. Can you talk, or maybe I see Deputy Mayor Ponder is here, about plans for the fire department to begin encrypting radio transmissions similar to how the MPD has been doing it?
You want to talk about that, Paul? I swear, I feel like this issue has been around forever.
We're looking at enhancing the security of the radios from the fire department. After the events from September the 16th at the Navy Yard, we took a look at all of our security protocols. When we have events like this, and they're fast-moving, we have to be very careful as to what information we are providing, because individuals who have harmful intent can use information that is freely available to further their purposes. So it puts law enforcement, first responders, and the public in a very precarious situation. So we're looking at how can we encrypt certain segments of those transmissions, how we can keep certain segments free. And so it's a work in progress. We are trying to work through various issues. So we're aware of some of the concerns, and we're working towards that.
So can you give me a timeline? I mean, is this going to be like MPD does it, or it sounds like you won't go as far as MPD, or?
We're looking to see if we can find that medium, if we can find that balance that will allow access to, for example, the dispatch information. And then after that, if we need to if we're at a fire ground or if there's an event, then we can switch to encrypted stations, channels, so that we can have that information, but still give access to the dispatch information so that people will know where we're going, what is happening. So that's what we're looking to see if we can do. So I have the technology people that are working on it, some policy people that are working. So it's still a work in progress, but we're looking at it, and that's going to be one of the real strong recommendations that comes out of our after-action reviews from the Washington Navy Yard incident.
Is there anything else that you've learned from the Navy Yard incident that will be included in your after-action?
That I can share at this point.
I'd like to ask you about two different personnel matters. First, I'd like to get a clarification on your answer regarding Harry Sewell, who was removed as director of the Housing Finance Agency. Who made the decision to remove him?
I guess the board. We had nothing to do with that. It was the board of directors.
It was not in the executive office of the mayor of the city?
No, absolutely not.
The other thing I'd like to ask is follow up on Mike's question about the height issue. If you follow what happened over the past several months, and even at last night's meeting of the National Capital Planning Commission, it's very clear that it raises some questions as regards the work that was done by the Office of Planning. And I think that a lot of DC residents have been concerned that they do not believe that in Harriet Trigoni they have had a fair hearing on a host of issues, including the revisions of the comprehensive plan. Do you have any comment today as regards what her future is?
No. Okay. Oh, Mike could get the last question.
One other, well, not to speak on the personnel matter, but what's going on at DHCD. Has there been any progress on making a determination on whether the insurers are going to be allowed to offer the old individual health plans going forward, as the president has?
I don't know of any. I mean, they're working on it. This is Wednesday. You know, it's just 2 or 3 days into this. Deputy Mayor Hoskins has the lead role because Disby is within his cluster. But we're working on that. We probably know that we have one of our people testifying on HealthLink today, and no doubt the questions will come up. You know, but since you brought it up, Mike, I think we should know how well HealthLink has gotten off the ground. We've had 22,000 households have created accounts here in the District of Columbia. 750 small business accounts have been created, and 3,600 households have completed their application for coverage. And we are one of the one of the exchanges that has really gotten off the ground. We haven't had a glitch in the operation of our exchange from the day it was launched on October 1st. So we're proud of that. I hope that you all will pay some attention. You know, we'll focus on the fact that this has gone very well thus far, and we have every intention of continuing it to, you know, in that fashion.
In terms of this determination, you know, Maryland has already made a determination. You know, how much longer are the insurers and the customers going to have to wait for the city to figure this out?
Not long. That's a good phrase. I got to remember. How long? Not long. Thank you all very much.